Hello there, welcome to another talk, and this talk is called The Sheeple Cannot Handle the Truth. You know, you want the truth, well, you can't handle the truth, you won't be able to handle it. You see, the sheeple, what's a sheeple? I don't know, in my last talk I don't talk all about it, but in case you missed it, a sheeple is people that act like sheep. Which is, what do sheep do? They obey to the shepherd and the dog, and the shepherd and dog is symbolic of the system, right? So that's why they call them sheeple. Now, yeah, they can't handle the truth, and it's not just people lower down that are the sheeple. You see, you've got everything comes from the top, but the top is very top, right? That and we all know that everything has to come from a system, but you know, the very, very top is very, very top, but below that, they can't get to the real ones at the top. You see, and that's just, and you know, for example, imagine a very famous singer. They've got a house and you can't touch their house because you're so below them, and they've got security everywhere. That's symbolic of the fact that we can't get nowhere near the system. They've got protectors, and the protectors are a lot lower down than the system. You see what I mean? And if you want to know what the system is, go and look at the British royal family. The British royal family, if a prime minister gets elected, a new prime minister, he or she has to get the Queen's permission, and the Queen is into Freemasonry. And so I'm not going to say any more. Do your own research on it, because I'm not going to get into trouble on YouTube. You know, I wouldn't like to lose my channel, so I'm only allowed to go so far. But you'll get the idea if you do your own research on it. But that's to explain the system. But so the system is this cult force, and so the fact that the Queen and the royal family are that's the real system. That's why the governments aren't the real system. And if you go up and up and up and up and up, it's these people that believe in what the Queen, the royal family believe in, which is this Freemasonry. Which, when you look at the symbols, it's the same symbols as people that talk about Illuminati. But you do your own research on it. But I'm mentioning that because that's the real core of the system. And so the people that are doing the censoring are just obeying orders, right? That's what they would say. But the ones really, really lower down, like the sheeple that can't handle the truth, they're lazy. They're people that have repeated their entire life, obeyed their entire life, and they want to their reality that they know is false to be real, even though they know it's not. You see what I mean? And so them kind of people will argue with you, call you names, call you conspiracy theories, because they do that because they know that whatever they're believing in doesn't hold up. So they will insult you. They can't actually have a debate, an actual adult discussion or a debate, because they know that it doesn't stand up to scrutiny. And that's how it is. And so that's why I say they can't handle the truth. And it all comes to programming. They've been programmed to believe, to not believe, but they want government to fix everything. They want the system, the daddy, the mummy to sort everything. You see, we live in a society where men aren't really men and women aren't really women. We've got little wee girls and little wee boys in man's and woman's bodies, but they're not men and not women. The only men and only women are the ones that are spiritually awakened. That's them that have had the spiritual awakenings. And a lot are awakening just now because of the hoax. See, I'm not allowed to say what the hoax is. I mean, it could be anything. You know, I've got to be clever on YouTube. But I just got a fact check just now from Instagram because, you know, Einstein said that we would live in a generation of idiots if technology took over, basically. And I looked on the internet, and even the Daily Mail said that he said that. So the fact check thing, just to add this on, you know, they make it up as they go along. Same with a variant of an illness. How can you have a variant if you've not isolated the original? But the sheeple just nod their head. But yet again, the sheeple. But what they do is, I've said this so many times, the system controls the stupid ones, which are the sheeple, and the sheeple then impose that onto everyone else. But imagine if you could turn the sheeple around. That's what's happened just now in the London protests. You know, a lot of that people. I mean, I believed in, you know, the crap that's going on right now, like the illness in Wuhan. I believed in it, you know. So it's not like I was always, you know, not believing in certain things. I did. I used to watch soaps years ago, many years ago, and take drugs, alcohol, you know, and I don't do any of that stuff now because I had an unexpected spiritual awakening. But I was once a sheeple too, and I remember when I used to, you know, want the, you know, the kind of thoughts that I used to think. I used to, you know, want the system to do everything for me, and that's the kind of thoughts they have. And the virtue signaling, yeah, that's part of the sheeple. You know, they do that because they want to get, like I said in my last talk, there's a band called Garbage that I used to like, and I was watching their post the other day, just virtue signaling all the time. And, you know, I really didn't think they'd be like that. But so many artists that I looked up to before are like that. But if you think about it, a musician or a singer or an art or actor or something, they're seeking attention anyway. So it makes sense that they virtue signal. That's what virtue signaling is. It's just seeking attention. So, but when you say stuff like this, the sheeple don't like it. The sheeple don't like anything of truth. I stopped years ago when I first went on the internet, which was over 10 years ago. About 10 years ago. I used to comment and stuff, and I realised that it was a waste of time because there's a lot of idiots online. So I just keep myself to myself now. I've got my own website because there's people out there that they haven't got much of a life, so they just want to argue with people on the internet, and I'm not really into that. But back to the sheeple, yeah, the sheeple just nod their heads at whatever they're told because that's, I know, because I used to be one myself. I didn't always have a spiritual awakening. So I know how they think because I used to be one, you see. And I still am. That's how I've got insight into things. Like I talk about narcissism. I could talk about narcissism because I'm still that. I'm still the sheeple, but it's like there's layers on built on top of that that have. That's how I've evolved. But yeah, and so the sheeple's mentality and why they cannot handle the truth is they simply don't want to believe it. The sheeple are not authentic. You see, to really accept truth, you've got to be authentic. This is what spiritual awakening is all about. Spiritual awakening happens when you enter the dark night of the soul. I had a spiritual awakening because at the age of 24, I sat down on my bed, or it might have been a settee bed I had at the time, I can't remember, and I had enough of everything up to that point. And I went through a massive dark night of the soul. There was lots of tears. I was so emotional for days, even weeks, and everything changed, like a mind explosion. And I entered the point where I didn't know what to do, and it was the point that people reach, and sometimes they commit suicide. So, but I chose to awaken. But the sheeple don't have that capacity. Well, they do, but they will choose not to. You know, because they're a sheeple because they choose to be like that. Even though they know someone's wrong. It's like you could be married and you could know your wife's in love with someone else, but you're still pretending. You know, these kind of people with that mentality, if they're not authentic, if they're a sheeple, which is person is not authentic, they cannot accept truth. Because it doesn't fit into what their ego wants to believe. Remember, the ego is based on fear. You know, and they want, and the other thing is they want the system to fix everything. John Lennon used to talk about this, that the government is the father to these people. But what's happening in the awakening, like we're seeing in the London marches, I mean, that's a lot of people. I mean, I watched that the other day and I thought, oh God, I mean, I write songs and I've been on stages, but I've never been on a stage like that before. So, you know, I mean, all I could see was people. And that's what's happening. And like David Icke says in the talk, that the police could only watch them walk by, where before they would have physically attacked them. Because there's a change happening, you see. An awakening where the sheeple are becoming lions. Right? And like the Piers Corbyn protests, anti-lockdown protests, started off as only a few people in London. So it's amazing how and now it's like London's packed with it when they do it. But there's still a few sheeple that can't handle the truth. But so what's happening, the sheeple that have awakened, they would have faced the dark night of the soul themselves. Because this situation, this hoax, even if you don't believe it's a hoax, it's made people face themselves, because being alone has done that. Eckhart Tolle said that at the start of this scam, that he said it will force many to spiritually awaken. So the sheeple cannot handle the truth, but when you're in a situation where there's no way out, that's when you can awaken. And then you have to face the truth. But on the other hand, it's also a choice. So what's going on just now is a choice. And Eckhart Tolle says that it could end up a situation. He thinks it'll be like some will be more awake, and others won't. Because remember, like I always say, spiritual awakening is a choice. Slavery is a choice. Everything is a choice. And the sheeple that cannot handle the truth, you know, they'll just, if they don't want to wake up, they will just bury their head in the sand. And it'll get to a point for them where the majority are awake and they're the only ones that are being like that because of their ego. And that's how I see it evolving. And the people that have had the unexpected spiritual awakenings, they are the 144,000. It was prophesied that 144,000 chosen people or beings, entities, whatever, would be born. And that's the people that have had the massive unexpected spiritual awakenings out of nowhere. And their job is to just share the knowledge, so eventually we can have a whole planet that's awake. And that's ultimately what they're trying to stop. And I can't really say too much, you see. I can only go so far on my YouTube talks. I've had 2 strikes for telling the truth. But I have got other platforms I'm on as well, so it's not a big deal. But I wouldn't like to lose my YouTube channel. But if I'm doing talks like this, I've got to say it like this is a more serious talk. But I've got to word it in a clever way. But I'm just going to leave it there. For latest updates, talks, news, research, and much, much more, please do check my website. My website address is www.lovelightfamily.com. Thank you.